7 wins in a row, 20 goals this season for Timo Pukki. What blip? Huh? Rob? What blip?
What blip?
But look, the performance today as well, and Timo Pukki was a big part of that. Another 2 goals, and Todd Cantwell and Emi Buendia again influential. That's a really, really dominant performance today, and it's almost like a really mature performance in the Championship. You know, they looked from, bearing in mind the first 10 minutes you'd probably take out, where the Luton, did their best in terms of closing Norwich down. After that, it was really all about Norwich and the domination of the game, and they looked like a team that, are uncatchable in this league, or a step above everybody else.
Yeah, dominance personified. I think that's the word you used there. Fantastic, controlled the game. Apart from the first 10 minutes, they were in complete control. Great performances all around the pitch. Okay, Pukki would take the plaudits for 2 goals. Buendia, Cantwell are the feeders of Pukki. You've got 2 centre-halves dominant again, two full-backs high up the pitch, delivering quality in and around the offensive third. And you've got a goalkeeper who's not made no saves, but when a cross comes in like the 60th, 65th minute, amongst the body comes out and plugs it out of the air. It's fantastic. So that's where Norwich are at the moment. And like I say, it's always tough after playing Brentford. It was a great win. And like you say, playing like a mediocre team, and that's no disrespect to Luton, to come out and win the game 3-0 is a real solid statement.
We talk about mentality quite a lot, and we use that word quite a lot, and how good Norwich has been during this season, and it's kind of taken on board the period where the blip of 2 draws and a loss, turns into a 7-run winning streak. I mean, where does that mentality come from? Is it experience from what they've done previous? Is it from the manager? Is it just as a group of players? What is it this season that's made them so dominant? The points they've got to go, they're 10 points clear again tonight.
Absolutely. I think individually they've got belief. They've got belief as a team unit. They've got belief as a team squad. They've got belief in the manager. The manager's got belief in everyone at their club. The people above the manager's got belief in so at the moment, everyone has belief in everyone. So if you cannot perform under those circumstances and go out and put a real solid display on it. I mean, in the second half, it was like Norwich had 2 or 3 more players. So comfortable receiving, they're getting good pockets of space. That's just cleverness. That's cleverness from an individual. But as a team, there was once in the first, you got Max Aarons playing left wing. That's open, expansive football. I say that's the way there's freedom in their game, and so that was one of the most impressive performances of the season for me.
Yeah, it was. And let's hear from Gossi now. Gossi, we're just talking about that. Where does that mentality come from? Is it just a case of winning games breeds that mentality, or is it individuals having words with each other during the week? Is it? We've both played, and Rob's played in teams where we've done well and been successful, and we played in teams that have not been successful. Is it just the case they're on that winning run, and that's what makes them look so good? That confidence.
I agree with what you're talking about in the studio there. I think there's an unmatched appetite to win, an unmatched appetite to set high standards and keep to them high standards. We've always mentioned that you're judged after a good victory, not on the next game, but on the next training session. And they set high standards in training, and they don't drop below those standards. Winning breeds confidence. Winning breeds self-belief. Players are playing out of their skin because they're in 7 games in a row that they've won now. They're not doing anything wrong. All I saw today was a overpowerful, dominant group of players in yellow shirts just wanting the ball all over the pitch, and they had the quality to keep the ball, quality up front to create chances and score great goals. And as much as we talk about the back 4, 5, 6 in terms of defending prior to this game, you've got to give praise to how imaginative and how creative and just how much belief and ability we have going forward to score goals. I thought they were outstanding.
And Gossi, does that say more about the quality of this side that they've got now, or does it say more about the Championship as a whole, maybe not being as strong as it has been in recent years? I mean, what is it? Are Norwich better? Are they equipped better, or is it a different type of league?
I think it's a brilliant question and a great talking point, because I don't think they are. When I look through the teams and I see the teams that we played this year, compared to last year, the teams like Leeds are non-existent. They've gone up the ladder a peg or two. And I don't think they are as good. I don't think they've got the squad that we've got. Okay, granted, we came down from a Premier League and we had a lovely squad. But so did 2 other teams, and they're not doing too well. And we have really taken this league by storm. And fair play to them, because there was a lot of pressure. Having been relegated from the Premier League, there was a lot of finger pointing on whether Daniel could get the very best out of his team to come back again and get promoted again the very next season. And they have just answered all the questions, and they're doing so well.
Rob, we'll bring you in this as well. We've heard this a lot about the processes and actually what this club's wanting to achieve over a longer period, not that kind of get in the Premier League, try and stay there, not do very well, come back down and struggle for a few years. They seem to be building the blocks slightly each time as they go into the Premier League and learning lessons. You know, we've seen Stuart Webber come out and said that the signings recruitment wasn't good enough in the Premier League. But they recognise that, and then the recruitment again. They hope for this year will be better. So is it we're all learning in this together and learning to do it in small steps rather than trying to take that massive leap in one go.
It's the best way to do it. I mean, recruitment is massive in football
unless
now.
you've got billions, essentially, then you're different.
But here, the recruitment is massive, and like the way Stuart's done, the way the recruitment team has done it. Hopefully they would have learned from the ones that have come in and not been as strong or as good as they hoped they would be. They sort of like got a base now. Like I said earlier, they've got this base now. But I think in the Premier League, it's much more unforgiving. You got the quality is much better than what we've seen in the Championship games and whatever. Like, so they have to be more sort of like precise with their signings now and the backing that they give them and whatever. And maybe do a bit more due diligence in their outlook of how they look at players playing for other teams and whatever. What level are they playing at? Is the level they're playing at not as good as the Premier League? It might be as good as the Championship, but go and look at players in leagues that can cope, that they feel with the Premiership.
But Gossi, have they given themselves a better chance of signing those better quality players because of the way they're playing this season, because of the dominance they have got? Because that attracts a player, doesn't it? If you're a player who's thinking, I can't get into a Premier League side straight off in terms of I've got to find a different route, and I look at Norwich, how dominant they are, you're going to get a better quality of player joining this time than you probably would have done last time in the Championship.
Absolutely, I agree. We're playing so well. We're playing so attractive football. The style of play, the philosophy, as the manager keeps talking about, is excellent. Look, what about the players that we can keep rather than the players that we can buy? I mean, would Skip want to go back to Spurs? I don't think he would, I think he's enjoying his football so much. He's in a team he knows that are going to be effective and powerful. So why go back to Spurs and sit on the bench when he can play week in, week out with an attractive quality team?
Where do you think, Gossi, you look at the team Norwich got at the moment, Robert and I talked about this, and I think we may have talked about on Thursday night at the Legends evening, about what does Norwich need to add? Because defensively they look fairly strong, but we talk about that pace in the Premier League. You've got to have pace in someone who's going to run in behind them, and we don't really have that in an attacking sense, do we? Is that somewhere you think Norwich are certainly looking at to recruit?
Well, they'll be looking all over the place. I think they've learned their lessons from the last time they were in the Premier League, and this time round they will invest. I'm sure they will bring players into the club. Where they build and where they add to remains to be seen, but they've got to have the quality of the person before they look at the quality of the player. The person that's right for the club and fits into this system with the work rate and the mentality. Correct. I do think we need something more up front. Last year I was crying out for two lads to play up front rather than just Pookie up on his own. Maybe he have that armoury to do that this coming season. But yeah, we need a little bit more pace up front. I would go a little bit more defensive as well and bring in a centre-half possibly to add to the quality that they already got. But the whole team is bouncing off each other so much with confidence. They could go into Liverpool away next season and be even better than what they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Gossi, thanks for joining us again, you legend. We'll speak to you soon, pal. Thanks, mate.
Thanks very much. See you soon.
That's the point, isn't it? When you get into the Premier League, where do they go from there? Because you've got a bunch of confident players in them, and as Gossi said, you could probably stick them in a Premier League game next week, and they would actually, because they're full of confidence, do all right. But once you get in that Premier League and it's unforgiving, you lose 2 or 3 in a row, all of a sudden that becomes a difficult place to be, doesn't it? So you've got to be really careful how you upset the apple cart with the players you do bring in and what they add to the squad, and that's the difficulty. It's a good problem to have for the football club because they're getting to that level, but that's the balance they've got to try and find, isn't it? At doing it at the right time, because the last thing you want to do is bring in the lads that don't quite settle, and you lose the other players that were here, that made you so good this season, and all of a sudden you drop back down and you're not in a position to go straight back up again. Yeah,
absolutely, and like I said, that's where the recruitment's got to be really good. They've got to be speaking closely to Daniel and Stuart about, listen, the ones we've brought in and the squad we've got now, they've got to be honest about the fact, listen, he's done really well for us in the Championship, but maybe he ain't going to do it in the Premiership. And we can't carry those type of people, or too many of them anyway. We need a squad. We need a squad or a base of 16 players that we know that can cut it in that Premier League, and that's where they've got to be so careful.
What can you, I mean, Rob, you're involved at Man City. You've got, well, not you personally, but Man City in terms of a football club have got money to throw at players as much as they want, essentially, to get who they need. A club like Norwich, realistically, what is it going to take? What sort of level of finance is it going to take to get 3 or 4 players, 5 players maybe, look, going to keep them in the Premier League? What, per player? What are you expecting? To pay 10 million for a player now, are you getting a seasoned Premier League player at 10 million?
Well, you're not guaranteed. You've got to look at Fulham. The last time they went up, they spent 100 million. And they got relegated straight away. Okay, they immediately went up. But what that cost them to go up, and they thought, we need these players. You can't just go out and buy a 15, 20 million pound player and think, because he's costing 20 million, he's good enough to play in the Premier League. That's like hot air.
So then where do you look?
You have to look, and this is where
there's no market is a surprise anymore, is it? Nowhere in the world is there players playing where no one knows about. You know about every country in the world.
Absolutely, but there is players out there, and if you do your job right and you get, like you say, you do your due diligence all around Europe, all around the world, there are players out there that will not possibly cost you 20, 30 million. That will be good enough when they come in. But then you've got the problem then to come, like Giannoulis. He's come in the Championship first 2 games, rabbit in headlights. Yeah. He's gradually improved. Is Giannoulis good enough for the Premier League?
And is it about that? Is it about finding players that maybe aren't being quite successful anywhere, but would fit into Norwich's side? Because we've seen with players, we talked about Harry Kane earlier, didn't we? About came here on loan, went to Leicester on loan, had one, he was dog. But then he comes, it all works for him at Spurs, and then obviously his career takes off. So is it trying to find someone that actually is not doing as well as they're doing at the moment, but you can see something in him that actually could fit into Norwich's system and the way they play?
Really, a lot of it's luck, mate. You know what I mean? Like I say, you go in there and...
Well, there's the secret, everyone.
No, it is, isn't it? You mean,
have you told Pep that?
But sometimes it's not what you see on the pitch, it's what you see off the pitch. Character, attitude.
Yeah.
Are they where they're at? Potentially, can they get better? If they come in, we know where they're at the moment, but we know they're going to be better coming into our group. So it's all sorts of things you look at, but character and attitude off the pitch is massive. Ollie Skipp, we talk about Ollie Skipp, how well he's done this year. Will he do as well in the Premiership? No one knows, but you think he will because he's as well as he's done. There's still room for an improvement.
Yeah.
And like Gossie said there, playing for Norwich in the Premiership would be better than going back to Tottenham and being a sub and coming on and playing 10 games. I mean, I'd love Ollie Skipp to be here next year as a loan or as a signing because he's done so well and he's earned the right to go and play in the Premier League.
Someone like him as well, because he's a defensive-minded player, he's going to get a lot more work in the Premier League in terms of experience, isn't he? Because they're going to be a bit more defensive next season. If he goes back to Spurs, doesn't play, so he's going to get the right experience at Norwich.
So if you look at if Norwich can any way Norwich can sign him, like you sign him, but worst scenario is try and get him for a loan, at least for a loan, for exactly what he's done this season. He will improve. He will improve. He's got it. He's got that attitude. He's got that character. He's good enough. He sees the game. His knowledge of the game is fantastic for a 21-year-old, 20-year-old. You know what I mean? So players like that, go and find someone else like another Ollie Skipp. We were speaking earlier today. They don't always work off. It's always, let's go and get someone from a higher club in the Premier League and whatever, because he'll make us better. Not necessarily. Don't think that always happens. But Ollie Skipp has made Norwich better.
Yeah, look, this is absolute golden chat here, but the producer in my ear is telling me we've got to have a look at the Championship table. So we're going to look at the Championship table. It does mean good reading. I mean, look at that. 10 points clear at this stage of the season with 11 games to go.
Games, yeah.
Essentially, they can lose 4 games, and that means everybody else has still got to win every single game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. An ideal scenario for me, I mean, we'll win, get 40 more points, get to that 90, get promotion. Like Daniel said, you've still got 4 or 5 games left. That's when it's important for Daniel to say, listen, we'll rest your Buendias, we'll rest your Cantwells, we'll rest like Pukis, let's play all the ones in the squad. You've got 4 games now to show me that you've got the quality to step up at that level. That would be a perfect scenario.
And those other players as well, is it about just hiding them off a little bit? Because if they are at that level and they're playing that well, do you want to, I mean, people are going to be well aware of Buendia and Cantwell and Pukki. They all know what they can do now. But I guess it depends down to those individuals themselves. Do they want to be at Norwich for a year in the Premier League? Do they want to move on? What's the mentality? I think the assumption is from a fan, and I knew it all the time, they're like, well, what are you leaving Norwich for? Well, I'm not from Norwich. Do you know what I mean? Emmy's not from Norwich. Todd is. He'd have a bit more of an attachment emotionally. Timo Pukki's not from Norwich. But, so if they want to further their careers, they have to be quite selfish at times, don't they?
They do. But then they have to realise sometimes the grass is not greener on the other side. Yeah, okay, you get sold for 20 million, 25, 30 million, and yeah, you earn a shed load of money. But you're going into an environment where expectation has to come straight away. There's no room for mistakes. There's no room for bad games and whatever. So Norwich, people know what a Buendia can do. People know what a Cantwell can do. So stay where you are. You're playing in the top league, I feel, in the world. Go and prove it on that stage, and your worth will keep on growing.
Yeah, and you'll naturally move on anyway, don't you? You deserve to be where you play.
You won't get tarred with a brush if you go into a team that's relegated. You can still show how good you are.
Yeah, brilliant stuff as always, Rob. We're back for the Nottingham Forest game on Wednesday the 17th, and that's a 7 p.m. kickoff, I believe, so we're live at 6:30. Now, it's man of the match, quickly, Rob, before...
Timu Pukki for me. Could have been anyone, but Timu Pukki for his 2 goals could have had a hat-trick.
It could have been anyone, though, couldn't it, really? Because in terms of defensively, they keep a clean sheet, and that's the beauty of Norwich at the minute. It's not one individual standout player. As a unit, they're all playing fantastic.
If you could give a man of the match for everyone, you could give it to anyone in Norwich team today.
Yeah, and you can head over to the Norwich City Twitter page to vote on your man of the match as well. Well, look, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time for Nottingham Forest. Take care. We'll see you soon.